What's up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Nation's The Pool List, where we talk all things comics all the time. I am your host, Matt Aguilar, and I've got an original group here, the original trio. We've been trying to make this happen for a minute. Kofi Outlaw, of course, is with us, and joining us for the first time on The Pool List, Janelle Wheeler. What's up, everybody?
Yay! I'm
Yo,
so
what's up,
excited
guys?
to be part of the crew.
Happy New Year.
I know, Happy New Year.
2024.
It's still surreal. It hasn't quite computed that it's 2024 yet.
Yeah, right.
I very much so. I'm not quite there. I'm not ready. But good news is comics waits for no one. And there's some big books right off the top of the year, which is great for us because we have a lot to talk about. And we have a lot to talk about from both companies. We got one of each of the big two here. So that's awesome. We're also going to be, just to give you a little preview of the show, we're going to be jumping into a big Marvel book, a big DC book, maybe a rapid review or two. But we're also going to try out a new fun thing. A new little format here for our big recommendations for the week from all three of us towards the end of the show. So jumping in first, let's say we're going to jump into X-Men, which I know when Janelle, when this was the episode that was going to happen, I was like, oh, we're going to be talking about a big X-Men book. But this is one we've been talking about for a minute, which is Follow the House of X #1. This is kind of kicking off the big, third chapter in this X-Men epic saga. And this is really the war between, the mutants and Orcus. And this kind of, some things have already been set in motion, but this book really kind of encapsulates everything. And from here, it looks like it's going to be kind of full systems go. We're in a war. And it's funny, me and Kofi talk a lot about this, how House and Powers were the books that launched this show in a lot of ways. So it is interesting to kind of have the pool list in its early days, and X-Men is right at the heart of it once again. But now we're seeing kind of the other end of this saga. For me, I gotta say, I mean, everyone knows I'm a huge Cyclops fan, and sometimes the best Cyclops moments are the quiet moments. And there's some dialogue here that it's just like quintessential Cyclops, and I think Jerry Duggan absolutely knocked that part out of the park. It's a lot of formulating the team, but not in the way that you typically do so. And I dug this. I think this did a lot for me in terms of kind of getting me back into the swing of things and like kind of back into this story to kind of see the mutants maybe bounce back a bit, because man, they have just been stomped to the ground over the past like 4 months. So a victory is nice. I came away really digging this book, but I guess what I'm curious for Janelle specifically, how did you feel about this in terms of, did this get you excited for like this arc in X-Men? Did it do anything to kind of sway you in that return? Then as far as Kofi goes, how do you feel about this being the beginning of this kind of final chapter in the saga?
I think my answer is going to be really dependent on what Janelle says. So I'm really curious to hear her.
I was going to say the same thing about you, Kofi.
Oh boy, here
we are codependent. I'm so grateful that you guys have crash coursed me through X-Men, because I am not clueless anymore. I know what Hellfire Gala is. I'm understanding the juxtaposition between mutants and humans. I know Orcus. Like, I don't feel like such a noob. And it really pays off once you put the work in to understand the entirety of what is happening and what led up to this. It felt very high stakes for me, like in the courtroom and where we were left off on the end of this book. So I am actually really pleasantly surprised at how much I loved this. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Kofi, how you feeling?
Wow, now, man, I
Don't
feel
rain
like
on our parade, Kofi.
It's passing in the night, and like this is going crazy. So yeah, like you said, we started this whole show. Comic Book Nation started when House of X and Powers of 10 came out. We were real big on this, but yeah, the Krakoa era has become this kind of weird thing amongst Marvel fans. Like, there's been this huge debate in Twitter over the last few weeks and things like that. But I liked this. Like, I think the writing, the art, all of it, so well done. But I just can't help but feel like this is the the quick kind of, we're getting to the quick, like, okay, we're going to wrap this all up kind of it all. Like all these kind of strands that have happened post Sins of Sinister timeline and how all the pieces have been moving in the various books. Like we've kept up with it. I know all of it, but even then this feels like a kind of rushed, just, okay, now the war's on. We've been seeing all this planning all through the fall. We saw like everybody's planning, moving after the Hellfire Gala in summer. Here's the war, but I don't know. It just felt kind of rushed, but it feels like, yeah, we are just kind of pushing through to the end of this, and I'm going to miss it. And I don't know if that's because there's anything particularly wrong with this book or just my feelings about being a person who liked the Krakoa era and maybe not wanting to go through this and doing that. It's all possible. So, you know, there are big things that happen, and there are some really cool scenes in here. Like, you know, just we get this where Krakoa goes on the run, you know, like that's
awesome.
That's a super dope. I mean, you take that, Groot. Like that's a super dope thing that happens. But yeah, some of the things they bring back around also feel kind of muted. Like it's been a long time since we saw that Orcus scientist lady get her husband get, like, you know, taken out by the X-Men and her quest for vengeance, and Nimrod and Omega Sentinel. And I feel like that could have used some more build up before we got here. But, you know, we're here and it's going to be a war. And, you know, we always say with mega crossovers and things like that, that the premise there has to be a simple premise to guide us through everything and kind of keep everything organized. And there is a simple enough premise here. It's a fight for survival. Orcus is trying to do this. The X-Men are trying to do that. And by the end of this book, we got some pretty high stakes, cool stuff that looks like it could come into play. So I'm not complaining too much. I think I'm just feeling the bittersweetness of ending this era.
I think you said that so well, because, by the way, I'm with you. I think because I really enjoyed this book, but I think I enjoyed this book. I had to kind of like I had to compartmentalize how I feel about the overall this era ending, because I adore this era. The Krakoa era, and it's one of those things again. Like I know it's kind of it feels like it's becoming popular to take shots at it. And like you're seeing some of these things of like, oh, like, oh, I'll be glad when this is gone, this is gone. And people like forget what the X books were before this era started. They were in shambles, man. Like the X books were, you know, just so people were apathetic. And that's the worst. That's the worst thing. At least if you hate it, you hate it. But like, you know, there's people who hate new X-Men, you know what I mean? But like you felt a way about it. Those books before were just, there were some good things, but like overall people were just so kind of like, oh, we need something new. And the Krakoa era did that. And there's so many elements that I just want to see pulled over. I don't want to see just a clean slate thing. I want some of that stuff moved over because it was so good. And so I think this does the job it needs to of, okay, we're moving out of the era, so we need to pull some things together to kind of set up that kind of next arc. And it did feel a little bit like some stories were a little more ready than others to move already into that. And some could have maybe used a little more big time. But I thought they did such a great job in this issue. And speaking to Janelle's point of like bringing it down to its base elements, you understand the conversation that Cyclops is having with her because it's one about grief. You understand, like, it makes it clear, like, hey, I don't even remember that. I don't remember what happened there. But like they set up so many things in this book. And it gives people who maybe haven't read all those tie-ins and haven't been along for like the whole ride to jump in from here. And I think that's really hard when you're dealing with a story that's dense. So I gotta give, you know, credit. Also, that fastball special sequence was phenomenal. That art right there, man, like there's a couple moments in here. The Shadowcat stuff, like there's a couple moments in here where you're just really like,
I want to
rah-rah's going.
Yeah, I want to touch on something you got there, which is kind of like set up, because there is a thing that this book does. And if you've been following Duggan and like his kind of path through all this, you can start to tell what's happening in this book, which they're kind of slyly doing. We're getting a kind of blueprint of which elements of the Krakoa era we're going to be kind of keeping. Like there's a whole paragraph in here about mutant circuits, right? And about how they figured out how to make these circuits and how the fastball special is really the first one. And we said that like when Krakoa started, one of the coolest things about it was it distinguishing the X-Men and mutants as not being just like the Inhumans or whatchamacallit, or the Eternals, like just superpower people. It's like these powers that can work in tandem, that mutants can make circuits to take their powers, put them together, and create these things. And that in a future, we see things like Rasputin 4 with actual chimera mutants made up of different powers. And like, this was great stuff that made mutants unique, right? And so like, it's clear that they're going to be holding on to that. But at the same time, this book starts to put a little bit more of the color into it, the costumes into it, the kind of classic Marvel-ness in it. And like by the end of it, and since we're having people watch live and the book's just coming out, I'm not going to spoil all that. But like, you get imagery in here that is clear that we're also going back to more of a fun, colorful, comic booky Marvel universe-y X-Men, but with some of these Krakoa elements kind of mixed into them. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this quote unquote Fall of the House of X storyline plays out, and the little clues we get about how the X-Men are going to look by the time we get to like next summer in this From the Ashes stuff, you know?
And I caught you getting excited, Janelle. Does that, so like from here, like when this kind of wraps, and there is a new launch, they've already announced it. It'll be next year, or sorry, it'll be this year. Oh my God, it's throwing me still. It'll be later this year, where they're relaunching the X-Men brand. Does this, when you kind of see more of this style and this mix, does that get you excited? Like, would you stay on?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. I really do feel like, I'm not sure if we have any people that have not been following this from day one, but if you are kind of new to X-Men beyond like the animated series from the 90s and like the toys that I just had like played with the Wolverine toy. I didn't actually read the books. You really like investing a little bit of time to try to catch up is really important. And once you do that, it's kind of like you got to stay in it, because you probably will lose track of things. There's a lot going on. I mean, this is a whole different world. Like, this is like the Avengers. Like, it's a completely separate world and characters, and they each have their intricacies and their relationships and their past. And now that I have invested time and energy into it, I do want to keep it rocking. And I do love the punchy colors, and like that's the X-Men that I kind of grew up on, or that I was exposed to as a kid. So I love that.
Yeah, there's some fun there. I'm excited. Oh, this makes me happy. All right, this is good. We're gonna move into
the most positive we've ever been about X-Men.
I think so.
I know. I was reading it and I'm like, I'm trying to get distracted here, but I am so in this. Like, I was so focused, and I am very ADHD, guys. I get very distracted by things, and whenever I'm in a book and I am actually like so deep into the story that I'm not realizing anything around me, that's how I know I'm into it. Like, I love it.
It makes it work. Oh, I'm so happy. So let's move into something with a different tone. Actually, it's crazy. They're actually both similarly dark, but they're just dark in different ways. But Batman 141 brings us to the finale to this Mind Bomb arc. But what I will say is that it is not the finale of this story. It is just the finale of this particular chapter in Chip Zdarsky's long Batman run. And one of the things too, if you've stuck with the show for a while, we have, all three of us have raved about Batman the Knight. And man, it was awesome to see so many pullbacks from the Knight. Like, if you were reading this issue, like there's I saw so many little editor's notes at the bottom of panels like, go check out Batman the Knight. It's like, yeah, this really felt like the first book. We've seen connections, and we've seen obviously big tethers as far as characters and things, but this particular issue, even mostly than anything, has been the biggest connection point between those two books. And it was awesome to see how well integrated and seamless all that was. There's a moment with Dick Grayson later that is awesome, that you learn some other things, but as the arc of the Zur-En-Arrh taking over Batman and Failsafe was the big reveal at the end, where essentially Zur-En-Arrh now has a body, and it's Failsafe, and that is him into the world, and now they're separate people, him and Bruce Wayne. I thought this was excellent. I was hooked from beginning to end, and I think the term finale is, I was expecting more of a wrap up to certain things, and it really isn't at all. It's not a wrap up to the Joker aspects of this story at all. In fact, it opens up a whole other a whole other slew of stories there, and issues to explore that. But then the failsafe and Zernar stuff is not closed at all. So really, like, when it uses like the finale of this particular thing, I think that's a bit of a misnomer. But again, I adored it. I thought it was excellent. I was riveted all the way through. I'm excited to see what's next on both fronts. I just think there wasn't as much closure as I thought going in. Again, that's not a bad thing, though. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because I'm enjoying the story. Do you think this delivered in the, with that word? Were you expecting more closure, and how did you feel overall about the story? Let's start with Kofi.
Oh, I mean, I didn't think this was I didn't think this was really gonna wrap up here. So I don't think I was disappointed in that sense, because there's been too many big things cooking, and there were too many big things happening here for it to all wrap up here. So I didn't think that. I thought this was the end of this arc. And in that sense, it is. I think what I loved about this arc, and I'm trying to wait, it's been a couple days since this came out.
Yeah,
but
we're good on this one.
yeah. But what I loved about this arc is it's like my favorite movie is Seven. And like, why is my favorite movie Seven? Is because one of the biggest reasons is it's a movie where there doesn't have to be a happy ending. Where sometimes like the hardest things are, the hero doesn't when things don't end well. I love those kinds of stories because they're more like life, and this one is fascinating because Batman is repeatedly getting his butt handed to him in these battles, right? And it's been building for a time. He's lost several kind of key battles against Failsafe, but what he's doing and what Chip Zdarsky has kind of worked out so well here is it's keeping things simple on the surface. Like, this whole issue is just a chase. It's one chase. But Chip Zdarsky does this thing where he works on multiple layers so well. So yeah, it's just a chase. But this whole thing is essentially Bruce. Like, if this was a movie, it'd be just Bruce Wayne fighting himself. This is just Bruce and Batman having a fight in this weird kind of way. Because that's what Zdarsky's I can't ever say this name. Zur-En-Arrh. The Batman, his Batman Zur is essentially just it's the Batman part of him that he's kind of like hyper focused into. And so like it's Bruce versus Batman really is what we're talking about in this story. And it's super duper interesting on that kind of psychological level. And like just getting to like seeing these different versions of Batman. And we're having this other fight later on in this book where it's Zur versus the other Batmans, right? Like, so and so all of this is working on this kind of crazy meta level of narrative when you really are playing about it, like him kind of having who Batman's been in these different incarnations in film and TV or in comics. And we're kind of addressing that in this fun comic booky way. I think this issue convinced me personally that Jorge Jimenez's take on Batman is going to be like one of the definitive takes on Batman. And I don't say that lightly, but it is. This is like an all action comic book, and it is amazing. Like, I was like gripped into this when Batman's like just trying to steal a car and get away, like just the angles and like the way it's drawn. Like, it is as tense as any like action thriller movie. And like, yeah, he is just nailing and just doing stuff with Batman and artwork. And like, yeah, that whole sequence with the car and he just jumps out with the explosions, like that artwork is really good. And he is making a definitive take on Batman. And every step we take with Chip Zdarsky's Batman, I get more and more intrigued, and he does something that was rare in comic books is like, I genuinely not only want, but like need to get to the next issue and be like, what happens next? Like, even when it's crazy, like even when Batman wakes up in a whole new world without Batman, even now that Zur has this robot body, like, and Batman has locked up with Joker. Like, this is all stuff I need to know what happens next. So we have said it. If you guys are just getting into the pull list, like we've been talking about how DC's Trinity comics, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman comics are all killing it right now. And yeah, the Batman side is really holding up. And like you said, Zdarsky takes the time to build like a whole world of this. So we're getting characters from the Night coming into this, building new relations like with Nightwing, expanding the mythos to those conversations. Like it's all getting wider and more interesting. And yeah, I'm loving it.
Janelle, what you think?
I mean, I can just sit here and listen to Kofi cook on this. I feel like he's stealing words out of my brain, and it makes me so happy because he's so articulate. It's so good. I mean, yes, you've wrapped up the entire feeling of this book. This is a amazing book. It's hard not to curse when talking about how great this book is, because it's like an adult, awesome, just awesome book. I'm trying not to curse. The artwork is just phenomenal. Like if I even just like left out all the words, just looking at each graphic is just, it's the robot thing. That thing looks crazy. Like it is frightening. And then just how, I don't know, I guess how the story kind of just comes together. It's just beautifully paced, I think. There weren't any like lulls. There wasn't too much talking. There was just enough talking. Again, I feel like I've been kind of in and out of this because we were really diving heavy into it. And then obviously the pull list started coming up and I've been a little bit out of it. So I had to catch up. I had to read 3 books to get caught up to you guys. So it's kind of blending together for me, but in a beautiful way. I do get distracted. It is hard for me to read a couple books back to back to back. I like to take breaks or read them every other day or something like that. But I just like blasted right through all of them because the action was so good. The art is so good. The dialogue is so good. And it keeps me wanting to watch the story. It's like your favorite show, you're binge watching it. I feel like it's harder to binge view comics, and this was not one of those. This one was like easy breezy. I just kept rolling right through the 3 latest books, and it was great.
Yeah, and talk about backup stories that matter too.
Yeah,
like the way they set those up, and the Vandal Savage stuff, and the previous 2 issues setting the stage for that in Gotham, Failsafe, and Zur-En-Arrh in establishing the leadership. The way things are gonna go here. I do have to shout out. It's funny, Janelle, that you mentioned reading the other issues. We didn't get to talk about the last issue at 40, and there's a moment in there that is just amazing. I can't not shout out the Batman 66 chum moment where he's got the bat shield and he's like, oh, I've got the bat shield. It's like perfectly done. And then on top of that, because it's Batman's mind, he makes it to where he has anti-bat shield razors. And for like any fan of the original, or not the original, but the 66 show, which I adore, having him have like essentially anti-shark repellent spray in a comic that is in 2023 at the time, because that was last issue, phenomenal. Like, it's just Chip Zdarsky is just like taking this to a ridiculous degree, and I adore it. Kofi, it seemed like, did you have a note to add?
I was just going to say that I was re-scrolling as we were talking, and I think that this issue might be one of the single best illustrated like Batman issues I've ever read, period. Like, just from start to finish.
And
like
Maury on colors, man, like there's that, Janelle mentioned it, that fail-safe moment where he's coming out of the fire, out of the explosion, like that's something out of a movie. Like, like I was just like, and by the way, all I've done in reading Mind Bomb is go, man, I need a like max series of this.
Yeah.
Like I need to see this.
You've
on
been saying
screen.
that like for a while.
The night too. I mean, start there. Crap.
Yeah.
Start there.
Might be something for real.
Yeah. And just build.
Like, yeah, that'd be a great film. Like, I mean, just, yeah, it'd be amazing. But all right, I could go on all day about how amazing.
Yeah. So, real quick, because we have something new we want to try out at the end of the show. Just keep the rapid reviews quick this week. I just wanted to mention one book, which is Kneel Before Zod. That is, as the title implies, all about Zod, but it's really all about Zod and his family. Zod has kind of set up shop. A planet that he can kind of call his own and rule as he sees fit. But there's also a very big father-son element. As you might imagine, Zod is not the best parent. Even though culture, culture for him dictates he raise a son a certain way, it's not going so well. It's not going so great. And I had the chance to talk to writer Joe Casey all about those aspects of the book, what's kind of coming next. So you'll be able to check out that interview on the website very soon. Hopefully today, if not tomorrow, but I'm hoping it goes up today. So just check that out. Always keeping the comic content flowing here. All right, so before we move to our next thing, we're going to do a quick thing of Rec or Pass. So for Janelle, because this is the first time you've done this, we essentially give each of our two main books a thumbs up or a thumbs down, working on the middle, somewhere in the middle. But for now, it's very binary. Like it's up or down. So for let's start with the X-Men, Fall of the House of X #1. Kofi, what say you, yay or nay?
Obviously, it's hard to do this in the context of new readers, but for anybody who's been kind of started with House of X, even if you've fallen off, I suggest, yes, I would recommend jumping on for this finale story.
Thumbs up.
Like,
Janelle, thumbs up, thumbs down. What you saying? What you feeling?
Big thumbs up. This is definitely an X-Men issue that I very, very much enjoy.
Oh man, across the board. So I'm gonna go thumbs up too, because man, this was dope. This was
I
great.
the only one that actually did the thumbs up? Come on, guys.
You did. Okay, so I'll make sure to rep on the next one. That's my fault. I should have totally done that. Batman #141. Let's go, Janelle. What did you think? Thumbs
oh my
up,
gosh,
thumbs down?
2 thumbs up.
Oh, there it is.
It's beautiful, and it looks, the 2 thumbs up look great with the cover.
Oh man, that cover rules. Kofi, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Most enthusiastic thumbs up I got this week.
Boom. And for me, yes, it is easy. I am with Janelle. Double thumbs up there, repping the thumbs. So moving into our new section. So instead of rapid fire reviews this week, we wanted to do something where we give you the books that we want you to like go to the store, head out there. If you can only pick a couple books, here's the books that we enthusiastically recommend. Obviously, we just talked about 2 great books in our kind of main chat. We, from our thumbs up across the board, obviously recommend those, but just we want to put it into a bite-sized form. So for me, I'm going to kick this off with my 2 recommendations. Vengeance of the Moon Knight, #1. This was following up, obviously, on the death of Moon Knight in the last kind of series finale, and this picks things up. If you're a fan of Moon Knight, you must read this book. It is fantastic. And talk about artwork, my God. It is beautiful, sets the status quo moving forward, and Reese is a boss. Next up, I'm going to go Ranger Academy, staying close to my Power Rangers roots here. #4. This book is so charming. I'm not kidding. This book is so delightful, and it's really just about friendship. There's a group of 3 characters in this book that I don't know how you can read 4 issues of it and not just adore them. So I heartily recommend this. The Ranger aspects are coming into the book as well. Kofi, what is your recommendations here?
I knew the assignment, but I couldn't break from the ones we picked. I had to go with Batman 141. That one is just so good. I'm seeing comments about the hate. I don't know what's going on Reddit, and frankly, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But for me, as a longtime Batman comic and multimedia fan, what Zdarsky has done, pulling together this mythos into something interesting and taking ideas like the Batmans are and making it into a legitimate, frightening arch nemesis, and essentially Batman himself, is just great stuff. Loving this book. Highly recommend everybody go out and at least get these 3 mind bombs and read this arc. It is fantastic stuff.
All right. Did you have a second one?
No, I'm going to stop there. I think I think I'm just going to focus on one. If I'm recommending people to buy something, like, yeah, this is
fair
the one.
enough. Perfect. Janelle, what are your 2 recommendations?
Yes. So when I was tasked with this, I was trying so hard to find books other than what we read. So the issues that I'm recommending are actually quite family friendly. So if you are looking for that, I think these are a great start. I'll start with Doctor Strange #11. This is really cute. Strange and Clear talking about possibly what it would be like to start a family together and the shenanigans that they get into at a carnival. It's just lighthearted and it's beautiful. And I think that it could be a family read. It could be I think, sometimes Strange can get, you know, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. It's easy to follow. It's cute. There's a little baby in it, and I feel like it's a good time. And my second pick is Sonic the Hedgehog number 68. If you are a gamer, especially like myself, I grew up playing Sonic. This is just so darn cute. It teaches a really valuable lesson, you know, from Tails and Sonic, and they even shout out Knuckles in there. They find a little lost land, and the exploration is really lovely, and the creature that they meet is lovely, and how they honor that creature in the end is it has a really nice payoff. So I think that'd be a fun one to read with the kiddos, or even yourself if you're nostalgic like me.
Perfect. Amazing. So that gives you a well-rounded group. That is your recommendation this week. We will do this every week moving forward, and definitely want to hear what you picked up at the comic store as well. So that brings us to a close here at the Pull List. Thank you so much for, number one, Happy New Year. It is 2024. I will have to acknowledge it at some point in time. Thank you so much for making the first few episodes of the Pull List in 2023 a success. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. If there's things you want us to cover in the future, please let us know. And thank you for all the support. So until next week, peace.
Deuces.